Shams Charania has dropped a very concerning New York Knicks report that rightfully so has some Knicks fans feeling very uncomfortable with the direction that this franchise is going in, particularly with James Dolan's involvement. Meanwhile, it also explains a lot in regards to the coaching situation, and we also have another update in regards to the man who the Knicks want to make the head coach the most, while also seeing that the Knicks are really getting underway with their coaching search, now doing the stuff that people more started to expect instead of just calling other teams and asking them about their coaches. And we're going to break all this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. If you guys are part of that 72% that's not subscribed to Knicks Digest, make sure to subscribe for daily videos like this. You guys have been killing it recently. We're closing on 18,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for all the support. It's been really awesome to see. But let's jump into this because the New York Knicks front office right now, things are interesting, to say the least. As we know, the New York Knicks have taken a very unorthodox approach to how they are searching for their next head coaches of this team. They've contacted a multitude of coaches, including Jason Kidd, Ime Udoka, Taylor Jenkins, Mike Brown, and more, including Johnny Bryant being one of the names who's always going to stick around towards the top of that list out of what you expect the New York Knicks to go out there and do in this period. However, we're seeing a lot of reports come out, and Shams Charania has been on top of it, with the NBA Finals getting incredibly low ratings, frankly, and this is not fair to either team, but because there's not too many fans of either of these smaller market teams, the Finals, they've been interesting. They've been fun. I'm just saying that they're not making headlines, and because of that, the one team without a head coaching search that's taking an absurd approach to things, well, the New York Knicks, they've found themselves in a ton of headlines, and James Dolan has found himself there with the Knicks as well. We know that James Dolan finished building the Sphere and then quickly got involved with the New York Rangers, and in the process, the Rangers made a bunch of moves that made them miss the playoffs over the last season. Now, Darius Dominguez covers the Rangers on a daily basis on Rangers Digest. I'm not going to explain the Rangers because I don't follow hockey well enough to even sort of do it, and Darius is absolutely awesome, so you want to make sure to watch all of his content. But on top of that, with the New York Knicks, we got a huge report from Shams that nobody wants to see, as Shams Charania revealed that teams would just hang up on the Knicks when they would call and ask about availability. Some would say no and then hang up. In other situations, there was profanity involved. You know, some literally F no responses. And now, this is obviously not what you want to hear. We've seen a multitude of different sides of this. We saw former New York Knicks beat writer Mark Berman, who's retired, he didn't get fired or anything, who's retired, say that basically, at the end of the day, what it sounds like is Leon Rose, William Wesley, and James Dolan have done a good job at making a ton of enemies over the years. Now, I imagine they've made some enemies, but also they had a beef with Rich Paul that got fixed, so it's not like they're just going out there and making everybody hate them, and I don't want that to be the angle that people are thinking is going on here. Maybe it's the one Mark Berman's trying to spin. Maybe we need Mitchell Robinson to say, Berman, relax. If you remember that was a legendary moment. Rebecca Harlow got a big kick out of it as well. But with the New York Knicks, with this situation, they're getting profanity thrown at them because, well, they're asking for teams' head coaches. They're walking up. Imagine being the Houston Rockets. Ime Udoka just had a phenomenal year coaching the team. Imagine getting a phone call if you're the owner, the president of the Rockets, and they're like, hey, so we want to talk to Ime Udoka about our head coaching position. What do you think they're going to say? Yeah, I mean, you know, that's a really good idea. I actually think you guys should talk to Ime Udoka about that head coach position. It sounds like a great idea. Hey, Leon, you know what? Go ahead and actually do that. Go talk. Go talk to Ime Udoka, and if you want him, you can have him, buddy. Why would they do that? Why would the Dallas Mavericks, why would Nico Harrison, actually, maybe Nico Harrison would do it because Nico Harrison does things with no rhyme or reason, like, you know, trading Luka Doncic. But what's Nico going to be like? Hey, so obviously I like getting rid of things that work and make the finals, so if you want Jason Kidd, you can go ahead and have him. I'm not even going to tell him that he's getting traded because I didn't tell him that Luka was getting traded anyway because I'm Nico Harrison and I'm a dummy. So maybe it's that. There's a bunch of situations that obviously these front offices would be mad at what the Knicks are doing. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to get back to Jason Kidd in a moment. And this feels like something people are going to point at Dolan. Don't point at Dolan. Point at Leon and Wes. And I'm not saying that negatively. I'm saying the Knicks are doing their due diligence. The worst they could say is no, is that's the response when your friend wants to go up and talk to a girl at a bar because he's into her, but he's like, oh, dude, what if she says no? It's like, all right, then she says no. Move on. you don't know her. It's not like you're getting your heart shattered if you shoot your shot and miss. The Knicks are shooting their shot right now, and look, here's the thought. It's like the worst she could say is no, dude. And then if she goes F no, that's still no. What are you gonna care? Oh, she cursed at me. What are the Knicks gonna be like? Oh, well, they cursed at us. That was mean. No, what? They're grown men. They understand what's gonna happen. William Wesley's friends with everyone. It's not gonna be a big deal. It's not. It's fine. So I think James Edwards had a very good response to this when he talked about it, saying New York doesn't care to win the headlines at the tabloids. If it did, team president Leon Rose and/or owner James Dolan would come out of the shadows and explain the Thibodeau firing and hiring of the next coach. Neither will do that. They haven't spoken to the media covering the team in years. The one time that we've seen Leon Rose go out there and actually say something to the media was when he did an interview with Alan Hahn, who works for MSG, who's obviously owned by James Dolan. Not Alan Hahn, MSG. But it was, I don't want to say scripted. It was not full of hard questions. It was like if like, this is a terrible analogy because I love Leon Rose and he's an excellent president of basketball operations. I don't know what basketball operations is, but he's an incredible president of basketball operations. But it's like if Kim Jong-un did an interview with some media that's just going to hype him up to continue the propaganda amongst North Korea, or if Putin went out there and did some interview to hype him up to Russians. It'd be like that. That was the equivalent of that interview. Now, I still liked seeing what Leon had to say, and in no means am I comparing Leon to two of the most evil people on the planet. I'm not. Again, I love Leon Rose. I think he's the best president of basketball operations the Knicks have had in my entire life. I'm 23 years old, about to turn 24, and Leon has been by far the best at it. There's a reason that Leon Rose got a team that was starting Kadeem Allen, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle. Who was even center? Was Mitch even starting at that point, or was it still when they weren't starting Mitch at center? I think Mike Miller switched that and had Mitch playing as a starter on like Fizz. But like, even so, then Kevin Knox was the other starter. That team sucked. They didn't win any games. They sucked. It was awful. The next year, when Leon took over, hired a head coach who worked with that team. Julius Randle improved, which you can't fully credit to Leon. They brought in some other pieces that worked. The Derrick Rose trade sent him on a 9-game winning streak. Leon Rose was excellent at his job. And guess what? He still is today. So we have to keep that in mind, that he knows what he's doing. And I think people are really blowing this out of proportion. At the same time, you look at what Mark Stein mentioned, saying the Bulls are in the process of extending Coach Billy Donovan's contract. Now, Donovan, of course, was one of the 5 coaches under contract that the Knicks sought permission to speak to. The Knicks' request to speak to Billy Donovan was denied, and that appears to have helped spark a new Bulls deal. Donovan's previous extension, said to have 1 year remaining, was secured entering the 2022-23 season, but not immediately announced until late November of that season. Now, you look at a guy like Billy Donovan. That's not Billy Donovan. You look at a guy like Billy Donovan, who the Knicks were going after. I don't think they wanted Billy Donovan to be the head coach. Man has 1 playoff win in his tenure with the Bulls, and the Bulls aren't exactly tanking. They're not getting much talent, but they're not tanking either. They more are now. But with this team, with the Knicks, they're checking the prices of head coaches. They're saying, all right, so if we were to interview them and they wanted to come here and we had to give you compensation, what do you want for that compensation? And there is one reason why they are doing that, and that is this man right here. That is Jason Kidd, because the Jason Kidd situation is alive and well. Don't get it twisted. The New York Knicks very likely will still go out there and find a way to hire Jason Kidd onto this team. Now, as we saw with this whole situation, Ian Begley said the door is not completely closed on the Knicks and Jason Kidd, per people familiar with the dynamic in Dallas. Other outlets reported as recently as last week that Kidd was still a possibility, and that remains the case as of Monday, June 16th. Now, on top of this, this is the week the Knicks are starting interviews, as Begley also mentioned that former Memphis Grizzlies head coach Taylor Jenkins is the first to interview with the Knicks, according to people involved in the process. Mike Brown, recently the head coach of the Sacramento Kings, is expected to interview after Taylor Jenkins. Now, Mike Brown is someone who the Knicks really liked in 2020 as well. They interviewed him. He did a good job. Obviously, by the time Mike Brown interviewed, it was widely regarded that Thibodeau had already locked up the job, so there was that situation. Johnny Bryant, quiet on the fronts right now, but he still is involved. I guarantee you he's going to end up interviewing because James Dolan's favorite guy. From what I've heard, as I said, I don't get a million news updates from inside the Knicks. What I do know is that James Dolan has an affinity for one guy to be the next head coach, and that is Johnny Bryant. And that is going to have an impact because Dolan's clearly a bit more involved again, which, yeah, is terrifying. At the same time, my pick for head coach, if you're not getting Ime Udoka, which you're not, is Johnny Bryant. So I'm going to have to agree with Dolan on this one, but for the most part, I don't want him involved because the Knicks are doing well with him not involved, and they're never good with it when he's involved. So understandably nerve-wracking. At the same time, you look at Taylor Jenkins. Jenkins is someone who there was good reason for. First of all, he didn't play his guys enough minutes. We had the problem with Tibbs playing his guys too many minutes. Taylor Jenkins doesn't play people enough. So there's that issue. But also, he's been a good coach. He adjusts well to the team he has. He makes in-game adjustments. He's not stubborn, and he has a good offensive and defensive background as coaching. He worked for Greg Popovich, was under that tree, rose through the ranks, and it's one of those situations where I think there's a world he could work as coach, but there are a lot of people who are Grizzlies fans who are like, no, he had to go. He lost Ja Morant, and that's a problem because Thibodeau lost the locker room with the Knicks, and that was one of the issues there. Now, in regards to Jason Kidd, it's clear that the Knicks believe they could poach Kidd. They believe that Kidd would be interested in the Knicks job enough to try to make this thing possible, and I believe the Knicks are right here. I don't think they have wrong information. The Knicks rarely have wrong information. It's one of the reasons why they've called 10 billion teams about their head coaches, because at the end of the day, they want to gauge the value for how much it costs to trade for a coach. Which coach, you might ask? You're not asking that question. We all know it's that guy. So it doesn't matter. We know who it is. It's Jason Kidd. That's who they want to see the trade price of. That is why they're doing this. I am sure of it. On top of that, I still think Johnny Bryant is going to be the head coach of the Knicks when it's all said and done. But things are getting interesting, and they're going to keep staying interesting. So make sure to subscribe and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss a single update on all things Knicks. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. We have a very fun thing coming out about Taylor Jenkins in a few hours as well. You don't want to miss it. Have a great day, and go Knicks.